Prakashito Namaste Saraswati Gauravani
श्री श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की एवं विष्णुपाद ब्रह्मण प्रजकाचार्य स्तोत्र श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर श्रील प्रभुपाद की नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम सुंदर राधा कुंड की गोवर्धन की गंगा माई यमुना माई की मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा माई यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी की अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की श्रीमद् प्रभुपाद की all glories to Ascended Devotees, all glories to Ascended Devotees, all glories to Ascended Devotees, all glories to Shri Guru Ji Gaura.
बिहारी
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare We want to hear about Srila Prabhupada, we want to hear about the followers too, which Srila Prabhupada has written about. Here he's describing how they're leaving their body. Text 32, right? Nishamya Bhagavan Margam Nishamyam Bhagavan Margam Sastam Yadu Kulasyacha Samstam Yadu Kulasyacha Swaka Parthaya Matim Chakre Swakartaya Matim Chakre Nigritatma Yudhishthiraha Nigritatma Yudhishthiraha Deliberating Bhagavat regarding the Lord. Margam, the ways of his appearance and disappearance. Samsta and Yadu Kulasya of the dynasty of King Yadu. Cha also. Swa, the abode of the Lord. Pataya, on the way up. Matim, desire. Chakre, gave attention. Nivrita Atma, lonely and alone. Yudhishthiraha, King Yudhishthira. Translation and purport in Divine Grace. Upon hearing of Lord Krishna's returning to his abode and upon understanding the end of the Yadu dynasty's earthly manifestation, Maharaj decided to go back to Godhead. So one interesting word here is the lonely and alone. So we come into the world alone and we leave the world alone. This is because we're individuals. It's not a collective thing. So we have to qualify ourselves individually also. We're individuals. We want to go back to the spiritual world. We can get guidance, but we have to do it on our own. We have to desire to go back to God. Nobody can desire for us. We are individuals and we have individual desire. So desire has brought us here individually, and it can bring us back individually. Not like a mass fall down that takes place. And not like the Bible seems to indicate that because Adam ate the apple, therefore all humanity, all mankind is condemned. No, that's the wrong idea. Why should I have to suffer because Adam did something that was wrong? That's his business. So my business is, I turned away from God. That was my mistake. Each one individually. And we can individually turn back to God if we so desire. Nobody can interfere with our desire. Just like Prahlad, he was desiring to please the Lord. Every attempt was made to stop his desire, but it couldn't be done. Purport. Maharaj also turned his attention to the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. After hearing about Lord Krishna's departure from the vision of the earthly people, he began to deliberate on the Lord's way of appearance and departure. The mission of the Lord's appearance and disappearance in the mortal universe is completely dependent on his supreme will. He is not forced to appear or disappear by any superior energy. And the living entity appears and disappears as the living entity appears and disappears, being forced by the laws of nature. So again, Krishna has his will, and we have our will. This is personal philosophy. The Mayavadis seem to think that there's no will. We merge into nothingness or everything, and then what? We lose our individuality. But for the Vaishnava, that's hellish. We have an individuality, and we want to use that in a proper way. We don't give up ego. We give up false ego. We maintain our ego, our identity, as a servant of Krishna. That's an identity. We don't become zero or one with everything. We remain as individuals. So it's a very encouraging philosophy. The Vaishnava wouldn't accept the merging. Is like a spiritual suicide. You lose your identity. Who wants to lose their identity? We want to purify our identity, and then in that pure state, we can enter into the spiritual world. Here, Prabhupada is quoting chapter 4. Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tattvataha. If we understand the truth, tattvataha, the Lord's birth and activities, then we don't come back to this place. Therefore, we should try to be Krishna conscious at every moment. This is the goal that Prabhupada gave us. Krishna is not forced to appear or disappear. We read that. Whenever the Lord likes, he can appear himself from anywhere and everywhere without disturbing his appearance and disappearance in any other place. He's like the sun. The sun appears and disappears on its own according to any place without disturbing its presence in another place. The sun appears in the morning in India without disappearing from the Western Hemisphere. The sun is present everywhere and everywhere, all over the solar system, but it appears that it is a particular place that the sun appears in the morning and also disappears at some fixed time in the evening. The time limitation given of the sun is of no concern. And so, what to speak of the Supreme Lord, who is the creator and controller of the sun. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that anyone who factually understands the transcendental appearance and disappearance of the Lord, it by the inconceivable energy becomes liberated from the laws of both death, birth and death, and is placed in the spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets are. There, such liberated persons can eternally live without the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. In the spiritual sky, the Lord and those who are eternally engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are all naturally young, because there is no old age and disease, and there is no death, because there is no birth. It is concluded, therefore, that simply by understanding the Lord's appearance and disappearance in truth, one can attain the perfectional stage of eternal life. Therefore, Maharaj Yudhisthira also began to consider going back to Godhead. The Lord appeared on the earth or any other mortal planet along with his associates who live with him eternally. And the members of the Yadu dynasty who are engaged in supplementing the pastimes of the Lord are no other than his eternal associates. And so also Maharaj Yudhisthira and his brothers and mother, etc. Since the appearance and disappearance of the Lord and the eternal associates are transcendental, one should not be bewildered by the eternal features of appearance, the external features of appearance and disappearance. One more. Kartatya Anuvishutya Dana Janai Data Datitam Nasham Yudanam Bhagavan Gatin Chatam Ekanta Bhaktya Bhagavati Adhoksajay Navishet Atparatmana Samshite. Translation. Kunti, after overhearing Arjuna's telling of the end of the Yadu dynasty and disappearance of Lord Shri Krishna, engaged in the devotional service of the transcendental personality of Godhead with full attention, and thus gained release from the course of material existence. So this is open to everyone. Women can also, in this very lifetime, qualify to enter the spiritual world. But they have to take up the same process that Kunti took up. It's nicely described. Ekanta means one-pointed. Ekanta Bhaktya Bhagavati Adhokshaja. A one-pointed devotion to the Lord who is Adhokshaja. What does that mean? Transcendental? Adhokshaja. Yes, transcendental. But this is the goal. One-pointed, uninterrupted, undeviating, unalloyed. He uses different words. We have to come to that point of unalloyed devotion to the transcendental Lord. So anybody can do it, even animals like Vitayu or Hanuman, the children like Dhruva and Prahlad. So we can become perfect. Only obstacle, what is that? Prabhupada was asked that. What is the biggest obstacle in our path of devotion? Prabhupada said, you are. You are yourself. Your own mind is the obstacle. Otherwise, from the superior side, nobody's checking you. They're happy to have you come back. They're happy to guide you. But we don't want to take guidance. We have our own agenda. We have our own plan. We're going to get ahead of this world. And we're going to be happy. There's no happiness. Certified. Dukkalaya. Place of something. But we think we're different. We're going to be happy because we have Modi as our Prime Minister. Yeah. No, isn't it? Right? 90% of the Hindus think, yes, now we're happy. But that kind of happiness is running through your fingers. How long is Modi going to remain? And then the next person. And even Modi, it doesn't mean he's a pure devotee. We want a pure devotee as a leader. Srila Prabhupada. We should follow him. Perfectly follow him. Then we're assured of going back to Godhead. But the tendency is to pick up some worldly person. I mean, this desire to worship some hero is there in everyone. Because ultimately, the real hero is Krishna. Everybody has a hero, especially children. I remember when I was a child, I had the baseball player was my hero. What do you have? Cricket players here, right? They make them as a hero. And then I had our president, JFK. I was a young man, and he was the president. I said, wow, this guy is so nice, handsome, intelligent, everything. But then I came to find out he was a woman hunter. Everything comes out. His character wasn't good. So we lose our heroes. But Prabhupada, there's no chance. He's pure devotee from beginning to end. I was a little cynical when I first came. I saw the devotees had a picture of Prabhupada and they were worshipping it. I was thinking, boy, my mother told me never to worship a human being. Why are they worshiping? Thank you. If we So I was questioning, why are we worshiping this human being? And it took me about 1.5 years, really, to understand, to be completely convinced that Prabhupada was worshipable. I couldn't accept it immediately. I can accept, okay, God we should worship, but why do we worship the human being? Because we didn't find anybody. In the Christians, they say Christ is God. So, okay, we can worship Christ because he's God. Of course, that's not true. He's the Son of God. There's a difference. Prabhupada used to say about Lord Jesus that he's the obedient Son of God, but the rest of us are disobedient. So this is the goal. We want to become obedient to God. Then we can come to the same level as Christ. But the Christians couldn't do that, so they made him God. That tendency can come to us also. The Hindus, a lot of them, they think their Guru is God. And even in ISKCON, I was there, 1970, leading disciples started to claim, the sannyasis, that Prabhupada was God. Right from the Vyasa side, they were claiming, 1970, moving down. And I questioned. I was in the audience. I said, what about that blue boy? Prabhupada wasn't blue. And they said, how do you know about him? I said to Prabhupada, they said, see? So they just pushed me aside. They were maintaining Prabhupada as God. But when Prabhupada heard about that, he threw them out of his society. He told them to travel and preach and become purified of this wrong conception. The spiritual master is not God. He's Shaksharani. He's as good as God because he's representing God. But he never claims to be God. And his disciples shouldn't think that he's God also. They should think he's an empowered living entity who's doing the work of God, fully devoted to God. And therefore, Krishna will be pleased if we please him. This is the philosophy. He's one with God and also different. But Krishna is Bhakti Vatsal, so it's true. If we please Prabhupada, then Krishna will be more readily attracted to us. And what does Krishna say at the end of the Bhagavad Gita? One who explains this subject to innocent people, he's most dear to me. But that was Prabhupada's mission. He was always explaining. I'll tell you, like one time, I came into Prabhupada's room in Mayapur, and I had an assistant with me. And Prabhupada was reading his own book, Krishna book. So I turned to my assistant and I said, see, Prabhupada is reading Krishna book. And no sleeping, no sleeping. And Prabhupada, what did Prabhupada say at that time to me? He said, yes, always preach. You follow? Prabhupada heard me preaching to my assistant that Prabhupada is reading a Krishna book. Prabhupada, so fast, he picked up on that and complimented me. Yes, always preach. So he was always preaching, and that means cutting or complimenting. If you're doing something right, he was encouraging us. If you did something wrong, he would smash. That was his mercy. So I did something right, I was preaching. And Prabhupada noted it, and said, yes, always preach. That was Prabhupada. He was sharp, he was very fast in his thinking. And he could read your mind most of the time. When he came. Some of my godbrothers, they were afraid to come in front of Prabhupada. Because I did wonder what he told me. He said, when I go in front of Prabhupada, I feel like a pineapple. All the things coming up, and Prabhupada will see all my inadequacies, and I'm embarrassed to be in front of Prabhupada. I mean, that was my qualification. I wasn't embarrassed. But then I got smashed. You want to hear stories about Prabhupada? How he smashed me. Like once in London, Prabhupada had a nice vase with flowers, and I came in and I stuck my face right into the flowers, like on Prabhupada's desk, and he looked at me. Who is this aborigine coming into my room and putting his face in my flowers? I could see Prabhupada reacting like that. So he was very shy in his own way. He didn't advertise himself. I mean, for preaching, sometimes he had to. But in general, on the ordinary course of it, like he was standing in line and the lady thought that she had got ahead of him. So Prabhupada was very shy. He backed up. Oh, no, please, you go. He wasn't pushy or self-assertive on his own account. But Krishna, he was pushy. But that's different. We should be bold in our preaching. But we give the example. The ladies ask sometimes, because in Los Angeles, the ladies were going out, I guess here also, and selling books. And so they have the question, well, Prabhupada, you say the ladies should be shy, but when we sell the books, we have to be bold. So how can we adjust this? We're supposed to be shy. Sometimes Prabhupada says the beauty of a woman is her shyness. We have to be shy. But how can we sell a book or we sell a part? Be shy. So Prabhupada answers by saying, yes. You have to be like a lion on the hunt and a lamb at home. So when you're hunting means selling the book, then you have to be bold. But when you come back, then you should be very humble. So this is our philosophy. Again, Prabhupada, did we read this book? I don't think we did. Kunti? No. The setting of the sun does not mean the end of the sun. It means that the sun is out of our sight. Similarly, the end on a particular planet or universe only means he is out of our sight. The end of the Yadu dynasty also does not mean it is annihilated. It disappears along with the Lord out of our sight. As Maharaj Yudhisthira decided to prepare to go back to Godhead, so also Kunti decided. Thus, she fully engaged herself in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, which guarantees one a passport for going back to Godhead after quitting our present body. The beginning of devotional service to the Lord is the beginning of spiritualizing the present body, and thus an unalloyed devotee of the Lord loses all material contact in the present body. The abode of the Lord is not a myth, as is thought by the unbelievers or ignorant people, but one cannot reach there by any material means, like a Sputnik or space capsule. But one can certainly reach there after leaving the present body, and one must prepare himself to go back to Godhead by practicing devotional service. That guarantees a passport for going back to Godhead, and Kunti adopted it. King Kunti Ki. Alright, so again, Prabhupada was showing when he left his body that this was his mood also. Like in Prabhupada's room in Vrindavan, I was there when Prabhupada was in his last days, and we had Kirtan going 24 hours. We had small cartels, and we were in the back of the room, and we would chant in shifts, so 24 hours. Even when he was sleeping, we had a soft Kirtan going. The only time we stopped the Kirtan when he spoke something. Then Kirtan would stop and probably speak something to his servant or speak something to us, all of us, according to his desire. He could speak, he was very lucid, you could say. Like we sang it, or we were sometimes introducing the Kirtan by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, but he was very aware of what we were doing. And sometimes he was correcting us, sometimes chastising us. The one leading devotee, well, what happened was Prabhupada said, why more devotees are not here? And then the answer was Prabhupada, well, many of them went back to their preaching field because they want to keep the book distribution going and so on. So Prabhupada wasn't so happy with that. He wanted more devotees to be with him in those last days. And then he called us all in and he was asking, why you're not here? And one devotee said, well, I had to go to Calcutta, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, that's okay, but even when you're here, means when you're done, you're not here in my room. He wanted us to come regularly into his room. And so I was fortunate because I was assigned to chant, so I was there regularly in Prabhupada's room. And he did, he encouraged me sometimes, and I'll tell you one story, near the very end, I got sick, like I have no sickness now. And this was worse, so I thought I shouldn't go in Prabhupada's room in this condition. And so I didn't go for a few days. And then when I came back, Prabhupada recognized my voice and he said, oh, you're here. And then he started speaking like from the Bhagavatam platform. He said, I'm simply a disturbance to your own voice, that you have to stay here with me. So it made me feel like crying, that Prabhupada was taking that kind of position, that he was in trouble for us. And I remember thinking, where else would I go? How can I wouldn't think of leaving. My spiritual master is in this condition, how can I leave? So then after speaking like that for a while, Prabhupada called, he said, call all the other devotees. So I went and called the secretary to Bhakti True Maharaj, and Bhavananda was there. Many devotees who were there, he came and filled up Prabhupada's room. Then he started speaking again. I'm simply a botheration, so I want to leave this room. I don't want to stay here. I want to go out. And so they organized, Lokanath Swami, and he asked me, Lokanath Swami, he asked me to go with him to bring the bullock's cart from Mathura to Prabhupada. And we did that, but he never used it. The reason he didn't use it, I was there when that happened, because Prabhupada had one godbrother who was very close with, Krishnadas Balaji. So he was in Prabhupada's room. And I was there. He was sitting on Prabhupada's bed. I don't know if you know Krishnadas. He's a very light kind of a person. He's a shorter person. And so Prabhupada called. He was sitting there with him. And then Bhakti Churu and Bhavananda came into Prabhupada's room, and they were distraught somewhat. They said, Prabhupada said, what is it? And Bhakti Churu Maharaj said, Prabhupada Tamakrisha Maharaj is very upset that you're going on the bullock's cart. He thinks it's very dangerous, and the Kaviraj also thinks it's not a good idea. You go out on a bullock's cart, it'll be difficult, it'll be bouncing and so on. But Prabhupada was giving arguments. No, we'll have a mattress and we won't, it's not a problem. But at this time, then Prabhupada was influenced. He said, I didn't want that this should happen. The mom was very close to Prabhupada at the time. And so he said, I didn't want this to happen. So then he turned to Babaji, who was sitting with him, and said, see how much they love me. So he was accepting being guided by his disciples. Sometimes there's a, I hypothesis that Tamal forced Prabhupada not to go, and not like that. Prabhupada didn't go on bullock's cart because he didn't want to go. And nobody forced Prabhupada. He did what he wanted to do. Tamal also got chastised by him. In my presence, Prabhupada chastised him. So there was no idea that there was a clique of disciples who were controlling Prabhupada. It wasn't true. Prabhupada was very much his own man. He was his servant of the spiritual master, that's all, not of us. And he decided to go or not to go. It was his choice. So he decided not to go. And then, of course, a few days later, he did leave his party. But he was not forced by anybody. Okay? And that's the last remembrance I have of Prabhupada. Otherwise, you want to read more? You can read my book. I just finished the book about all my exchange with Prabhupada. I don't want to tell too many of them because then you might not buy the book. The next time I come, I'll have some copies of it. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Sri Prabhupada ki. Unless there's a question.
Maharaj, thank you very much for sharing your time with us and realizations and reflections on the Bhagavatam. In the times that you had joined, like 1971, you took sannyas, and since then, really steadily going on in spite of all the ups and downs that ISKCON has faced, devotees have faced. So what is that, essential principle that we are stuck to keep continuing to serve and the spiritual master?
How long have you been serving?
Joined in 2006. 2006.
6. So what is your
16 years.
What is your secret? How will you have managed to go on 16 years? Once you can go 16 years, then you can go 60 years. It's not the same. You get a higher taste, and then this becomes your family. You don't think how I can do it. It doesn't come into your head that you could give up your connection with your Guru and Krishna. So it's not that difficult. Once you get a higher taste, where else would I go to find the Kirtan? Kirtan gives us life. Kirtan is so inspiring. Or where I should go to? See young people or something? Do some meditation? Silent meditation? No. That's okay? Next question. Okay, we'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Sri Prabhupada ki.
His Holiness Sri Vikram Swami Maharaj ki.
Ekadasi Vrat ki.